Still of the night, I think of you. My heart beats with every thought of you. You're the one I can't let.
She took several steps backwards, breathing hard. What was she doing? She should leave. In that moment, she knew as she was sure of the existence of a supreme being governing the whole universe, that he was the only man for her. Should she wake him? She thought against it. She didn't have the heart to wake him. He looked so peaceful and ruggedly sexy that she was afraid of what would happen if she touched him. She knew she wouldn't stop at a mere touch. She would want to explore that beautiful body. What wouldn't she give to have him open those metallic green eyes of his and smile her welcome? She let out her pent-up breath. The reality of it was if he woke up, he would be mad at her for invading his privacy. Jeez, his girlfriend could have been here. The best thing to do under the circumstances, she thought, would be to look around for the purse and leave before he woke up. With her mind made up, she walked to the first drawer and opened it and began to search them one after the other. She didn't notice him stare and wake. Chuck woke up to the feeling that he was not alone. He couldn't remember coming into the room, let alone falling asleep. What a day! He had a lot planned. First, he wanted to drop in on Stanley and see which of his friends was up to some exercise. These days, Stanley was almost the only pal he could hang with, Uche and Charles having succumbed to married lives. Still, he hated going to Stanley's house because he didn't like his gold-digger living girlfriend. He looked at his watch and knew that going over to Stanley's house was out of the question. Stanley would be at work. That was when he heard the noise. He slowly looked up and saw a girl going through his chest of drawers. Chuck couldn't believe it. Maybe he was still dreaming. So he closed his eyes and opened them again, but the girl was still there. How did she get in? Slowly he sat up. Found what you're looking for? Helen froze with horror. Oh, please, this can't be happening. Run, run, her mind screamed at her. It echoed all around her. She could hear her mind screaming the same words at her some other time when she faced another man in what seemed like 2 lifetimes ago, the masked man in her dreams. Slowly she turned to face him, and the look she saw frightened her. She was not seeing Chuck, but was reliving as if in a blindfold a horror that had remained blank in her mind. The man moved, and she panicked and made a sudden mad dash for the door. But Chuck was anticipating that exact move, and he was on her before she could open the door. And to his surprise, the girl started fighting with all her power to escape him. He restrained her as best as he could, but she proved to be quite strong for the slender girl that she was. In her struggle, the two of them fell to the floor. Chuck found himself landing on top of the girl, and she winced loudly with pain the impact of his full weight caused her. She quit struggling then. "You are crushing me, moron!" she croaked painfully. Chuck couldn't believe it. The girl had the audacity to speak, let alone call him names. She tried to struggle again. "It won't do you any good," he told her. "I am not letting you up till you tell me who you are and what you're doing here." She was breathing hard, trying to catch her breath before she tried explaining. But it was difficult to draw a breath, let alone speak. The guy was resting his whole weight on her. But somehow it felt great to have his hard body pressing down on hers. How many times had she dreamed of this? "Answer me!" First of all, she began. "You are killing me, and I have not mastered the art of staying in this kind of provocative position with a man while I tried to explain myself to him." Chuck then noticed their position, and she was really too small and very soft. He felt a stirring in his loins, which quite surprised him. He looked at her face. She had very beautiful lips, quivering and begging to be kissed. Without thinking, he swooped down and stole her lips in a kiss. At first, she was too stunned to react. Her first instinct was to protest, and she opened her mouth to do exactly that. But that was just what Chuck was waiting for. He deepened the kiss. Helen felt her control slipping away, and she held on to him. Chuck knew the exact moment he won the battle, so he relaxed the hold he had on her and lifted her. Helen didn't notice when he lifted her. So lost was she in the soul-searing kiss. But when her back touched something soft, she felt his hand searching for her zipper. Reality returned. What was she doing? Where is the zipper? Chuck asked huskily. Let me go! What are you doing? Her words didn't register at first, so he bent to kiss her some more. He had never felt like this before with any woman, but she turned her face away. Is it just me, or is this how you treat all who come to steal from you? He stopped immediately and gave her the full impact of his green eyes, and she melted anew. Well, not all who come to steal from me are this hurt and begging for it. I am begging for nothing, except that you get off me so I can draw a good breath. It hit him all over again. How small she was against his body, and how well she fit in there. But he must be crushing her as well, so he lifted his weight a little and exhaled. What just happened? He asked himself. The girl was a thief, for crying out loud. She came to steal from him, and all he could think of was tossing her skirts over her head and making mindless love to her. Disgusted with himself, he got up from the bed and turned to face her. She stared at him and dropped her eyes. Unfortunately, they landed on the unbuttoned jeans, and she wondered if she had done that in a frenzy too. She couldn't even say what possessed her to jump Chocobi the way she did. He must think she was a thief, and worse, a whore too. She shuddered again and wondered if it was still possible to escape. Chuck followed her eyes to the door. Don't even think about it. Or this time around, we might not stop at just a few kisses. Why did you kiss me? She didn't know who was more shocked at her question. Where had that come from, she asked herself, calling herself all kinds of fool. Good question, Chuck thought, but irrelevant at the moment. In his inner moment, he would ask himself that. Don't play smart, because I'm the one asking the questions. How did you get in here? Through the gates? You expect me to believe that my security allowed you in without my permission? No, they didn't, but your brother allowed me. Why would he do that? She shrugged. I guess you should ask him. So who are you, and what do you want to steal from me? I assure you, I am not a thief, and it is your fault that I'm here looking through your things. Incredulous, he couldn't believe it. So how is it my fault that you sneak into my house and go through my things? Well, you don't recognize me. We have met severally, and this is not the first time you are stealing a kiss from me. The first time I left something behind, I came to get it. His eyes dropped to her lips again. Who are you? She stood up. Helen, mask co-designer. She smiled as recognition hit him at last. Mousy Helen? She was shocked at the nickname. It hurt so much that he would call her that. She wanted to hurl herself at him, but then she felt a kind of confidence that was foreign to her. Mousy must be to your liking then, honey, because you keep stealing kisses from me. And yes, I know I should be flattered that Chocobi is having some kind of romantic affair with my lips, but the fact that he kisses anything in skirt takes the romance out of it. Chuck was shocked, speechless for the first time in his life. He could only stare at her. I came for my purse. I shall need it this evening for Mma's son's party. Chuck chuckled and went into his walk-in closet. Helen became a little disappointed. Just like that? He was going to hand the purse over just like that? Wasn't that what she wanted? She asked herself. No, she answered herself. She wanted more. But she couldn't put her finger on what exactly was more. Here you go. He handed her the purse, but took it back as she was about to take it from him. It seems as if you have gone through so much trouble to get this purse. Or was it to get kissed again? I think you enjoy the fact that I steal kisses from you. He gave her that bone-melting smile of his green eyes flashing mischievously. What are you talking about? She asked hesitantly. I think it is only fair you get all that you came here for today. Helen began to shiver, but she didn't know if it was from fear or excitement. I only came to get my purse, and I thought I could look for it myself instead of waking you up. You are not a good liar. He came to stand very close to her, and she backed away from him. He followed, and she continued to back away, till her back touched the wall, and her breath quickened when she saw the intense way he was staring at her. Ever since I stole that first kiss, you have not forgotten it. Part of you came here today hoping I would kiss you again. He smiled when he saw her swallow. Am I right? He asked and rubbed her lips with his thumb. Helen couldn't have denied it if her life depended on it. Am I right? Because if you don't answer, I will not grant you your wish. I may have stolen 2 kisses from you before, but I am here to kiss you the way I kiss my women. So what's it gonna be, Helen? The thought of him not kissing her the way he would kiss a woman he called his was an unbearable thought. Helen wasn't thinking straight. All she wanted was to be held in his hands, and she couldn't remember a time she didn't want that very thing ever since she saw him on television. He kissed her eyes, her forehead, the side of her mouth. She raised her lips, but he evaded her. I need to hear the words first. Kiss me, please. And he kissed her, crushed her against the wall with his full weight. She clung to him because it felt like all her bone had melted. She felt like she was floating through galaxies, bursting with lights and magic. She held on and tried to get closer to him as much as she could. What started as a punishment for her changed, and he couldn't tell who was punishing who. He wanted more than this kiss. He wanted this woman more than he wanted to breathe. He had never wanted like this in his entire life. Not any woman he had ever known. Yet, in her arms he felt like he depended on her for breath. But that thought brought him back to life. He wrenched his lips from hers. They both stared at each other, breathing heavily. Wordlessly, he handed her the purse and turned away from her. Helen looked at the purse, and shame washed all over her. What possessed her to act so cheap? She wanted to say something. She wondered what was going through his mind. What did he think of her? She didn't know what to say or what she wanted to happen. You should leave, unless you want to spend the rest of the day in my bed. He turned to look at her then, smiling coyly, all traces of passion gone. As much as I would like that, I have other things to do that are far more enjoyable. Helen was shocked as shame washed over her anew. Without another word, she turned and left. Chuck sat down and closed his eyes. He wondered what was wrong with him. Who could have known that mousy Helen was this soft, yielding and giving? That she could drive a man mindless with lust? He chuckled. And at that exact moment, he remembered how she caught him. He grabbed his shirt and went in search of his fool of a brother.
In the still of the night, I think of you. My heart beats with every thought of you. You're the one I can't let go. In your arms I find my home. Love, sweet love, it's you I'm dreaming